and welcome back to this week's episode of Book Bestie. I'm your host Megan, and for this week's episode, I listened to my first ever audiobook ever. Just before we get into it, obviously, as you guys have probably heard by now, we have a book club on Discord. If you guys want to join, the link will be in my Instagram bio, which is Megan_Jor, or it's on the Book Bestie Pod Instagram. It's also in the description on the YouTube videos. If you didn't know, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, I upload visual videos of the podcast onto YouTube. So if you want to head over there and subscribe and like and all the fun things. And then if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, if you could rate the podcast, that would be very much appreciated. It helps the podcast out tremendously. It just means that Spotify and Apple push it more. So yeah, this week I listened to my first ever audiobook. I listened to Powerless by Lauren Roberts. It's honestly been on my TBR for like the longest time. And I've heard incredible things about the audiobook, like all over TikTok and stuff, and just in general about the book. I was in a bit of like a romance kick for a while, so I wasn't really reading anything fantasy, but I know that this is a bit of like a romantasy. So it's a nice way to ease back into it before I, go full guns ho back onto Throne of Glass, which I'm terrified about, but we'll get there. So basically I am insanely busy at the minute with college and stuff. I'm in one of those like periods where everything seems to be due at the exact same time and everything's just kind of happening all at once, and I'm also literally weeks away from being done. So sitting down and reading for me isn't something that I can really do at the minute. And then also, I've talked about it before, but I get a certain amount of guilt when sitting down and just kind of sitting there and reading when I know I have stuff to do. So I got the audiobook. I originally bought it on my Kindle. I bought the Kindle edition of Powerless first, and that was $3.81. This is in euro, by the way. I converted it over from the pounds that my Amazon has it in. And then I added the audiobook for $3.50 on top of that. So just in general, like when I kind of thought about audiobooks and if it was something that I wanted to kind of look into or think about, it was never something that I thought I would like at all. I'm the kind of person that, like, if I'm sitting there and I'm watching something on like Netflix or YouTube or whatever, I have to have the subtitles on because I just can't understand what's going on. My family hates it because we were sitting around watching Oppenheimer couple weeks ago, and I genuinely could not tell you one thing that happened in that movie other than a bomb blew up. They wouldn't let me turn on the subtitles, so I have no idea any of the dialogue, anything else that happened. All I know is a bomb went off, and that was pretty much it. So everyone always hates it because I need the subtitles. I need to be able to like read along as I'm watching, or else I get distracted, or I just in general can't hear them properly and I have no idea what's going on. So my concern was that I wasn't going to be able to kind of keep up with what was going on in the book and really truly understand the story as much as I would when reading it and kind of seeing the words for myself and like physically taking it in. So that was kind of like my main concern really. And then also is I love writing in my books. I've talked about this before. I love writing and highlighting and everything. I literally destroy my books all the time. And although on Kindle that ability is kind of lessened a little bit because obviously I can't draw on my Kindle, I can still kind of highlight and stuff, so there is that element of it. And then also I love when you can highlight on Kindle and then they all go to like a little book of their own, so it's super easy to find the quotes that you're looking for and everything, so that kind of makes up for the fact that I can't draw on my Kindle. So I was thinking with an audiobook I couldn't do any of this. I was literally just sitting there and listening to it. Also, as I mentioned before about needing subtitles and stuff, I feel like writing and highlighting and kind of annotating as I go with a book, it also helps me keep up. And it's really big in fantasy books, especially because all the names are so similar and I have like no idea what's going on and everything's like really complicated to pronounce. So sometimes I'll even look up how to pronounce something and I'll write like the phonetics. Is that the word? Phonetics. Yes, it is. Is it? Okay, maybe it's not, but that anyway, like how to like really break down how to pronounce it. So I felt like that was something that I wasn't gonna be able to do, was like ever listen to an audiobook of a fantasy, because I was like, I'll have just no idea what's going on. I also just love taking the time to kind of sit there and read a book, like getting into bed and having stuff done and you know, just curling up before and just like sitting there and reading. Like, that sounds so basic, but it's just like I turn on like my nice mood lighting. I light a candle and I just sit there and I read. And I felt like with an audiobook, like I was just gonna be like sitting there with like headphones on and just like staring into the abyss, and I was like, that's a bit odd for me. I didn't know if that was something that I was going to like at all. But like I've seen so many people talk about audiobooks and like how they just love switching between. And I listened to a podcast called Fantasy Fangirls, and apologies, I do not remember her name, but one of the girls on it, she exclusively listens to audiobooks. That is all she does. She doesn't really read the physical book. She exclusively listens, and she has a whole last podcast about the real breakdown of these books. So I was kind of like, I wonder how bad and how hard it is to keep up with audiobooks if like she can do this. And then also, I've talked about it before, but I love Sarah Crowley and Destiny Sidwell on YouTube, and they both love audiobooks. And like Destiny listens to them as she works out, and Sarah just kind of listens to them if she's running errands and stuff. So I thought it could be kind of handy, so I really was intrigued for quite a while, but it was just never something I pulled the trigger on. So I bought the audiobook on Saturday. It was the day before my birthday. I also got, as a birthday present for my family, was a new pair of like over-the-ear headphones. They're like Sony ones. I'm really excited. They're actually arriving today as I'm filming this. So I'm at the window just like scouting out for the poor Amazon man as I try and like not stalk him and like freak him out. But I am very excited, and if they arrive while I'm in the middle of this, I will be leaving. So just, you know. So I was like, I might as well get an audiobook to go with my new headphones, you know? That's the kind of person I am. I was like, my little treat, you know, I'm going to buy an audiobook. As I mentioned, I've heard incredible things about the Powerless audiobook, about the 2 voice actors that are in it, and just in general, like hearing the story, it was just something that everyone was raving about. To be honest, it was the thing that when I saw it, God, it was months ago now, it was on TikTok, but it was something that really piqued my interest with audiobooks. I was like, I really want to read Powerless, but I don't have the time right now, so this could be really easy. I didn't start it straight away. I waited until I was on the bus back down here on Sunday night. So I had just like worked from like 10 to 5, you know, got on the bus. I'm on the bus for about an hour to get to college. And I was just sitting there, and I plugged in my headphones, opened it up on my phone, and I was like, oh my God, I actually really like this. I was sitting there and I even like text my sister, and I was like, I think I may be an audiobook girl now. Yeah, I don't know. It was just something about like sitting there and just getting to, I do like reading on the bus when I'm kind of going to and back from college or whatever. But sometimes after I've just worked all day, or even on Fridays, I have class like literally before I get on the bus. Sometimes it's just something that I'm not in the mental capacity to do. But obviously, like, I want to read. It's like free time that I can sit there, and it's an hour uninterrupted of me getting to just read. So having the audiobook and not having to actually sit there and like hold my Kindle or hold a book and whatever, just getting to like put my head against the window and just listen, it was like so amazing. And I was like, which it sounds so sad, but you know what I mean. Hopefully somebody out there gets it and doesn't think I'm actually like genuinely a loser who for her 23rd birthday bought an audiobook. So first thing that I really loved about it was I loved hearing the differences between the 2 POVs. So obviously in Powerless you have Peyton and you have Kai. Now I know that this isn't in every audiobook. Some audiobooks are just exclusively one person that reads the entire book. But Powerless, it is split into 2 voice actors. Oh my God, I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. It was something about getting to hear the descriptions of these characters and actually like hear a voice along with them. I thought was really, really cool. And then it also just kind of, to me, it was like, it brought the book to life in a certain way that like just reading it, you can't. Because like you were hearing it and you were hearing these descriptions and you were hearing about, you know, what they were doing and all this kind of stuff. And yes, you can like do that in your head and you can hear it in your head. But like, I'm never gonna match Kai's voice in Powerless. It's not something that I am physically capable of doing. So I didn't even know that it was something that like I would like and like love to hear, was like the differences. But yeah, oh my god, I loved it. And then I love just in general getting to, sometimes the start of fantasies can be not tedious, but there's a certain amount of explanation that has to go on within the first couple of chapters. You have to get like a bit of an explanation about what the world is like obviously in Powerless we have like a post-plague world, so you get a little bit of a description about that, and you also get a bit of a description about their abilities and all that kind of stuff, and the ordinaries and etc. So sometimes that when you're reading it and you're trying to get into a book, and I'm someone that if a book doesn't grab me really quickly, I find it really hard to want to pick it back up. I hate DNFing, but it's just, I then just don't read anything for a really long time because I'm like, I can't sit through more explanation, even though it's so necessary and it's something that just has to happen. I just find it so difficult. So getting to sit there and actually just have somebody like in my ear explain all that to me, I was like, oh my god, this is like something I didn't even think I was missing. I love this. This is great. So yeah, it just gave me that whole explanation without me really having to do anything, which was fantastic for me. But yeah, as I mentioned, like it just brings the book to life in a different aspect that I didn't even think was possible. Like I obviously, like in my brain, I feel like I am quite decent at imagining a book and being able to kind of put the pieces together and visualize what's happening. But hearing the people, it just adds like a whole separate layer that I didn't even realize I was missing. The second thing that I loved the most about it was how easy it was. Like I was sitting in the college library there a couple of days ago, and I was sitting there just doing an assignment. It was a big assignment. I had a lot of research that I had to look through and stuff, and I had it playing on in the background, and I was a little bit worried. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna lose track of where I am in one of them. I'm either gonna start like retyping out the book, or I'm just not going to know what's going on at any point in the book. But I actually was like fully on board with both things, which was kind of weird. I'm not a great multitasker. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not something that I'm very good at. But it was like I was sitting there and I was like able to fully put myself into my assignment and write what I had to do, while also listening and registering what was going on in Powerless. But yeah, like as I said at the start, like when I sit down sometimes and I'm reading and I take like a designated time to read, I do feel a bit guilty about it because I'm like, I should be doing this assignment, this is due, and I should be doing work on this and da 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 da. So getting to actually sit there and be like doing the work that I have to do and also listening to a book while like kind of reading, it was like, holy shit, this is so cool. It was like 2 birds, 1 stone. I don't know if we're saying that saying anymore after like PETA yelled at everybody, but 2 birds, 1 stone. Also in the morning when I get ready, I've literally just been like turning it on my phone, and like as I'm walking around the room packing my bag or I'm doing my hair, my skincare, whatever, it's just playing, and it's so cool just to get to like get through the book a little bit while just like doing day-to-day things. Like it was just something that always to me, like reading was such a separate activity, and it's really like blended it into my life, which sounds a bit dramatic, but again, I hope there's somebody out there who understands what I'm talking about and doesn't get too like, this girl has no life and is quite sad. And honestly, like I thought, you see a time on the book, like I think the Powerless is about 17 hours, and I felt like seeing that I was going to be like, oh my god, that's so long, that's so many hours, that's so da 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 da. And seeing like a time as I'm going, I thought that would kind of throw me a little bit, but it hasn't at all, because it goes by so quickly and you don't even realize it. Like I think yesterday I was listening to it while I was also doing work, and I think I got through about 4 chapters, and I didn't even like really truly register that and like how much of a chunk of the book that is. And third is just in general with audiobooks, I feel like I'm gonna enjoy is the fantasy element. As I said, like sometimes I have such trouble with fantasy and keeping up with people and really truly registering like the worlds that I'm in and the names of some things and stuff. So having somebody there like literally telling me exactly what I need to hear is gonna be like so game changing, honestly. And I'm really excited to kind of after Powerless, 'cause I feel like Powerless's world is quite, it's easy enough to comprehend. Like there's not something, so far anyway, I haven't finished the book honestly yet, but But so far, like, there's been nothing that's been too confusing and I have no idea what's going on. So I'm really excited to kind of get into like a bit of maybe a heavier fantasy, and just having the voices and stuff like that. the voices. My God. The voices talking to me, you know, casually about everything that's going on. I just feel like is going to be so helpful. I'm honestly not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to listen to romances. I've been kind of trying to think about it, and I feel like I love listening to like the creation of this big fantasy world and and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to sit down after that and be able to listen to like someone explain like their workplace romance. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'd love to try. I would genuinely love to try, and I'll keep you guys updated on that, like if I do. And also I feel like the more explicit moments of a romance book, and obviously those moments exist in fantasies and stuff as well, but I feel like there's a lot more of them in romance, and I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to like sit there with a straight face, like if I'm on the bus or something, and like listen to like that, you know, like I couldn't imagine listening to Icebreaker. Could not imagine listening to Icebreaker in public, sitting there with headphones on. I think I'd cry. I think that sounds awful to me. I'd love to try. You know, if you guys have listened to any audiobooks and listened to a romance book specifically and you loved it, let me know, because I'd love to try it out. But fantasies, I feel like it's going to be so helpful. Just in general, because even if I like switch back and forth between them, if I still want to read the book and I own it physically, but just having that option to be able to zip over to the audiobook and be like, how the hell do you say that guy's name, and being able to put that together, I feel like that's gonna be so helpful. Fourth, obviously when you're sitting in bed reading, like regardless if you're tired and stuff, it's hard to completely relax because you're obviously holding the book and you're reading it and you're registering everything that's going on. And as I said, I write in my books. Like I love destroying my books completely, so I feel like with audiobooks I can like pop in my headphones, I can get all comfy, I can set a timer. You're able to set timers on the Kindle app, and it just means that it's going to automatically turn itself off. So if you know you've got like an hour left in you, set that timer. I usually set it for just a little bit before I fall asleep because I don't want to miss anything, and it's just so easy to like take out your headphones, lock your phone, and go to sleep. So easy, instead of having to like put your bookmark in, put your book away, whatever. I sound so lazy, but yeah, I feel like it's just going to be so much easier to kind of really relax and truly like melt into a story when I want to go to bed, or when I just want like an hour to relax or something. I feel like it's going to be so nice and helpful. In terms of anything negative, I so far have realized that I don't love listening to it on my Kindle. I have a Kindle Paperwhite, and I can't do the setting where you can listen to it and watch it as it's going. So I usually tend to listen to it on my phone, my laptop, my iPad, something like that, where I'm able to follow along, because I do feel like sometimes I can get a little bit distracted, and being able to kind of look over and see where I am as it's highlighting and going is so helpful. So it's not something I love doing on my Kindle, which is kind of annoying, because I feel like when I do pick up my Kindle and I start reading, it's so separate from like obviously my phone. I get distractions with notifications, and same with like my laptop or my iPad. So I feel like it's I wish I could do it on my Kindle. I think there are some Kindles you can do it on. It's just not an option on mine. So it's definitely something that when I eventually, you know, touch wood, my Kindle's gonna last forever. But if I need to update my Kindle at any time, it's probably something I'll really look into, is like, is that an option? Because it's just so like separate from everything. You pick up your Kindle and I can get through an entire book without really realizing it, and or ever picking up my phone. But I feel like on my phone I just get a notification, then I get distracted, and then I end up going into Instagram and scrolling, and Twitter and scrolling and whatever. So it's just better for me to be able to read on my Kindle. But with the audiobook, it's something that I do enjoy doing on my phone or my iPad or laptop, whatever. The second thing is I honestly didn't realize how expensive audiobooks were. I think I got that one cheaper because I had already bought the Kindle edition. So I think if you like bundle them, it gets a bit cheaper. But like some of the audiobooks I was looking at are like something like 14-15 euro. And I understand like a lot of work goes into them, and obviously you have to pay the voice actors, and you're renting a studio and all that kind of shit. But I just feel like, holy shit, they're like really expensive, and it's not something I realized. So it's kind of, I almost like regret getting into it because I'm like, oh my god, that's so expensive, and I'm gonna want them all now, which is gonna be an issue. I'm not sure if I love Audible. Like, I feel like their subscription is like a little bit of a joke. Like, you basically pay, I think it's €8 a month here, and you get a credit every month, and that credit will allow you to listen to like a new really popular book or whatever. But there's also just a lot of books that are just available for you to listen to, but they're not really as big as like you'd probably, maybe if you're into the same books that I would, they were not the ones you really want to listen to. But I do pay €10 for Kindle Unlimited, and I think that's beyond worth it because I've read so much on my Kindle, and I've finished so many series on my Kindle because they've just been free and they're sitting there, and I pay my $10 a month, and God, I used to spend way more than that on my Kindle, just buying all these Kindle editions of books and stuff. So for me, it's personally really worth it. I'm not sure if I'm in audiobooks enough yet to actually even vaguely start to think about maybe getting Audible. So right now I'm good with my Kindle Unlimited subscription. That's good for me. But if you guys do have Audible, I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about it. You can talk about it in the Discord if you want, or the comment section on the YouTube video if you want. It's just something I'm really intrigued about, if it's actually really worth it. So yeah, that's currently it. I'm still listening to Powerless. I don't know how far I am into it. I think I'm a little over halfway. But I'll make sure to give a full review when I'm finished, because I know it's a very popular book and I'd love to kind of hear your guys' thoughts as well. But I just wanted to give you like a quick little update about kind of a new addition to my reading journey, I guess, is me trying audiobooks. As I mentioned, I'd love to hear if you guys have listened to audiobooks before and what you think. You can leave it in the comment section on the YouTube video or in our Discord, or you can find me on Instagram or TikTok as well. You can comment there. Yeah, that's kind of all I've got today. Sorry for the shorter episode. It's only about 23 minutes. As I mentioned, I'm just absolutely swamped right now and just trying to stay afloat. I have a couple weeks left, and then I'm all done forever. Terrifying. But yeah, so if you want to go over and follow me on Instagram, it's Megan_Jor or Book Bestie Pod. On TikTok, it's Megan_Jor as well. I post a lot of stuff over there, mostly book, obviously, related content. The YouTube, I think it's just Megan Jor, I believe. Or you can just look up Book Bestie on YouTube as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate the podcast, as I mentioned at the start. It really does help like so much with the podcast. It just means that it pushes it out to more people and it recommends it to more people who are listening to similar content. So that really, really helps. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you all next week. Bye.